Situated on a slight incline and basking in sunlight, the 119-year-old craftsman-style home belongs to Henry Reeling, a finance professor at Harvard Business School, who has lived in this 4-bedroom house on Moran Street in Lexington, Massachusetts for 42 years. Reeling purchased the property for $142,000 shortly after joining the Harvard facility and resided there until his death in 2019. On a winter afternoon, Ben Finnegan, a real estate developer from Lexington, arrived at the property. Finnegan and his business partner purchased the home and adjacent carriage house from Reeling's widow for $3.8 million. The compound will be converted into 10 housing units in one of Lexington's most desirable neighborhoods. The main building will undergo renovation and be transformed into 2 condos, while the second structure has been demolished to make way for townhouses and garden-style homes. This is the first development of its kind here. You can see the mansions in the background, Finnegan says. 10 years ago, the idea of condos in Merriam Hill would have been unthinkable. The Boston suburb of Lexington, with a population of 34,000, plans to add over 1,000 new apartments, townhouses, and condos in the next few years. This represents a third of all new housing units planned under a recent Massachusetts law aimed at addressing the state's housing shortage by easing zoning restrictions. Lexington's ambitious housing development plans may represent the peak of a growing national movement to provide more diverse housing options beyond the traditional single-family home. YIMBYs, or Yes in My Backyard advocates, distinguish themselves from NIMBYs, Not in My Backyard, by calling for increased housing density. Their goal is to build more housing units on the same amount of land, thereby increasing the supply and lowering the astronomical cost of renting or buying a home in the United States. Lexington, a Boston suburb, is an unlikely candidate to embrace a new approach. The town is known for its restrictive zoning, excellent schools, and high real estate prices. As the birthplace of the American Revolution, Lexington has long been fiercely protective of its historical identity. A 2019 study by 3 Boston University professors found that Lexington has 34 different housing development regulations, twice as many as the neighboring city of Waltham, which is home to Brandeis University and is more open to growth. Lexington and similar U.S. communities have embraced housing deregulation, driven by lawmakers seeking to spur more home construction. Since 2023, states have passed at least 95 laws aimed at increasing the housing supply, primarily by requiring or encouraging municipalities to ease zoning restrictions. According to the Mercatus Center at George Mason University, this marks a significant shift. As such, measures were rarely passed before 2017. States are starting to recognize that the housing shortage is posing a real threat, says Alex Horowitz, who directs an organization's housing policy initiative. The dam is broken, he says. The U.S. is facing a significant housing shortage, with Fannie Mae estimating a need for 4 million new homes. This is a nationwide issue, but zoning regulations, which play a crucial role in addressing the shortage, are determined at the local level. As a result, progress often depends on the unique circumstances and willingness of individual communities to enact change. Most towns in Massachusetts complied with the new law's requirements. 31 missed the initial deadlines. The state then extended the compliance deadlines for these towns. 2 Boston suburbs, Milton and Needham, were particularly resistant to the new law. Milton unsuccessfully challenged the Attorney General's effort to enforce the law, losing in the state's highest court in January. That same month, the Needham voters rejected a compliance plan in a referendum. Conflicts and variations in local housing policies are common across the United States. For example, in New York, the suburban city of New Rochelle built housing at more than twice the national rate. However, New York Governor Kathy Hochul's effort to ease zoning and create 800,000 new units faced strong opposition in other bedroom communities, especially on Long Island, forcing her to scale back her ambitions in 2023. In Montana, legislators made it easy to build in-law apartments and duplexes, but a group of homeowners, calling themselves Montanans Against Irresponsible Densification, challenged these laws up to the state Supreme Court. A Fannie Mae survey of 100 industry professionals and academics found skepticism that the most effective changes, such as speeding up the permitting process and expanding multifamily zoning, will be widely adopted. To expedite home construction, Trump has proposed reducing environmental and other regulations. However, at a rally in Tucson, Arizona, he criticized the idea of building more apartments in commuter towns. Massachusetts has a long history of addressing the not in my backyard mentality. In 1969, the state legislature passed the Anti-Snob Zoning Act, which targeted municipalities with limited affordable housing. This law allowed developers to bypass certain zoning restrictions if they ensured that 20 to 25% of new units were priced affordably for families earning below the area's median income. The act resulted in the construction of 70,000 housing units. Despite provoking suburban opposition, Massachusetts voters overwhelmingly rejected a 2010 attempt to repeal the law. In 2021, Republican Governor Charlie Baker signed the MBTA Communities law. This law requires 177 towns near the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority public transit system to create zoning districts where developers can build multifamily housing without special approval. Towns that refuse to comply will lose access to state grants for infrastructure projects like roads and schools. The law gives towns flexibility in how they meet the requirements, with some simply designating already developed areas. Lexington has been working since 2018 to modify its housing codes to promote the construction of smaller homes. Lexington, a small New England town, was first settled in 1642 and incorporated in 1713. Unlike many towns, Lexington does not have a mayor. Instead, it governs through an unwieldy legislative body called Town Meeting, which has around 200 members. To plan for the town's future, Lexington's town planners facilitated months of public gatherings and workshops. In one such workshop, 100 residents split into small groups and used regular stickers to indicate on maps where they would like to see more growth in the town. In April 2023, Lexington became the first town to approve a plan to comply with the MBTA Communities law. The vote was 107 to 63, with opponents citing concerns about increased traffic, costs for schools and other services, and a potential change in the town's character. Lexington went beyond the state's requirements, setting aside 227 acres for development, at least 3 times the mandated amount. This paved the way for up to 12,546 housing units. Additionally, Lexington changed its zoning to allow multifamily construction in single-family neighborhoods, as long as developers can assemble at least 2 adjoining lots and the projects comply with zoning rules. This new law, which enabled the Finnegan's Merriam Hill project, allows developers to proceed without the lengthy, contentious process of attaining a special permit, which effectively gives neighbors veto power. The Lexington Planning Department estimated that the town's MBTA Communities proposal will add 400 to 800 new housing units over the next 4 to 10 years. However, developers have already proposed over 1,100 units, with more applications arriving regularly. The opposition in Lexington is actively organizing on Facebook and at town meetings to vote on a petition to scale back new building developments in March. Developers typically favor building luxury housing after acquiring high-priced land, even though Lexington requires 15% of units to meet the state's affordability definition. However, the majority of these units will be market rate. The median rent in Lexington is almost $4,000 per month, and purchasing a new townhouse or condo is out of the reach for middle-class families. For example, at the Merriam Street development, some homes will likely cost around $3 million. YIMBY supporters argued that any new housing supply can help bring down prices, as it makes less expensive properties available elsewhere. Finnegan, a builder for Merriam Street, is moving forward with his projects. His company is primarily focused on demolishing older homes and replacing them with new residents that can sell for up to $6 million.